Hey, welcome back. I was just having a thought. I'm sitting here driving and I'm wondering to myself, who's the best sports broadcaster ever? I have some thoughts, I have some opinions, but it started to make me think, where are my biases? And what is my opinion based on? And what might your opinion be? What might your answer to that question be? So let's talk about that. My name is Rick. Welcome to Sportscasters Club. So I'm sitting here driving in New York State. This is where I grew up. Went to school at Fordham University. So I'm a New Yorker in terms of sports, in terms of the sports media I consumed. So when you ask me who is the best sportscaster ever, maybe someone from New York might say, well, I mean, think about the NBA Finals just ended with the Knicks winning. A lot of people might say Mike Breen. Some might say Michael Kay or Gary Cohen. Others might say Marv Albert, Bob Murphy, Bob Papa, Marty Glickman. Because as a New Yorker, those are the media voices we heard and saw the most. Meanwhile, if you're in LA, maybe you say Chick Hearn. If you're in Detroit, maybe you say Ernie Harwell. If you are in Boston, maybe you say, oh, Johnny Most was the best. If you're in Brooklyn, oh, it was Red Barber. It was Red Barber. It just depends where and when you consumed that media. So let's talk about some of the criteria. There are actually two main criteria that jump out to me when I formulate who was the best sportscaster ever. And then I also want to finish with talking about how this question might have a different answer down the road. And you'll understand what I'm going to say. But when I formulate the question, when I'm asked, hey Rick, who's the best sportscaster ever? The way I answer that is I put it through a prism of two different things: educational and informative, and entertaining. I have both. Personally, I put more weight, myself, on the educational and informative side. A lot of the new ESPN culture would put more weight on the entertainment side. And it really comes down to you, the viewer or the listener. So while I might say education and information is more important, Marty Glickman's higher at the list, because it wasn't about him. It wasn't about shtick. It wasn't about entertainment value. You were tuned in to hear the game. Same thing with Marv Albert. You were tuned in for the game. He was a staple. Very much that lineage has been carried straight through to Mike Breen as well. So personally, I think we all filter it through those two lenses: education, information, and entertainment. And like I said, I guarantee you that 20-year-old fans would probably put 75% of the importance in the entertainment bucket. When I was the sports director at WFUV at Fordham University, the students were very interested in who was the latest sports voice that had the hot take, who was the one that had the hot new opinion. That really wasn't my focus when I was young, but growing up, I looked to sports talk radio for that. And obviously ESPN and First Take and all the different spin-off programs, Pardon the Interruption, and all of that is generated by opinion and hot takes and being the first one to share something new from an opinion point of view. But in terms of play-by-play, I always focused on being informed, being educated, and that's what I always have taught students, and that's what I felt my goal was as a sports broadcaster, specifically broadcasting games, play-by-play and color analysis. So those are the two lenses that we all look at it. I put much more of a value on the first, education, information. And I would venture to guess that anyone of older generations does the same. We're tuned in for the game, the information. We're not tuned in to hear the hot take or the screaming, yelling home run call that's going to make its way onto a highlight on social media. And also, as a broadcaster, I was never concerned about the broadcast cam looking at me and how my histrionics getting crazy over a big score, a big goal, a big touchdown, because it was never about me, the broadcaster. That has definitely changed. However, a lot of people still hire, and I say hire, I mean employ program directors. A lot of them, when they're hiring for play-by-play, for game day crew, for game broadcast, they're looking for the person who's going to educate and inform first and foremost. Yes, you have to be able to entertain. You have to be compelling. You have to be enthusiastic. Those are ways to entertain as well, without making it all about you and your shtick and your home run call and your signature calls and your hot takes. So those are the two different frames that we answer the question through. Who is the best broadcaster ever? But it also got me thinking as I'm driving here. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The other thought that was running through my mind as I hit record was, how is the answer to this question going to change? Because I think it is going to change. And here's how. When I began this video 6 minutes and 45 seconds ago, I mentioned different broadcasters in different geographical areas. If you were in LA, you grew up listening to someone in LA. If you were in New York, same thing was true. St. Louis, Chicago, Boston. We were really focused on the voices in our geographical area because that's the way media was structured then. In New York, you were lucky if you got a few Mets games a week. And then at one point, Sports Channel came about and you could watch almost all of them. And it wasn't until ESPN where you could watch games from around the country. But truly, it's been the recent 2 decades that we've been able to consume sports from across the country, from every market. Whether you're watching the NFL, whether you're watching the MLB network, the MLB app, MLB TV, you're watching it from everywhere, and all of the other sports as well. So no longer are you limited to one specific geographic area. I can wake up today and watch a Kansas City Royals baseball game if that's my desire. I can wake up and watch the pregame show in Detroit and see what Craig Monroe or see what the thought process is on the Detroit Tigers from the local Detroit market. And that's a beautiful thing because it levels that playing field for fans no matter where you are. You could be outside of the United States. And we won't get into some of the blackout rules, which are frustrating. Definitely with Major League Baseball. Very frustrating. But you can wake up on a Thursday morning and say, tonight I'm going to watch the Pacers game, including pregame and everything. So, in that regard, 20 years from now, we are all going to have many more options when answering that question, who is the best broadcaster now and who's the best broadcaster ever? Where we had a limited, finite amount 20, 30 years ago, now we all have a plethora to choose from. Whether they're in Kansas City, LA, New York, Boston, Cheektowaga, Springfield, it doesn't matter. Regardless where they are, we can consume games and sports content from those different areas, those different markets, those different geographies. And that is to be celebrated. You know, we talk a lot about how sports broadcasting has taken steps down over the years, where it's no longer about the game, it's about the personalities, it's about the look at me, I want the attention as the broadcaster. But there are also so many ways where sports content, sports broadcasting, sports media is so much better than it was. We have everything at our fingertips, and that should be celebrated. So when I answer the question, who's the best broadcaster ever, my lens is focused on the past half century. When someone 50 years from now answers it, they're going to have a completely different lens, a wider lens, a much bigger and more fruitful and bountiful lens from which to pick. And that's a great thing. Again, my name is Rick. Thanks for subscribing here at Sportscasters Club. And we'll catch you next time. So long.